Hello and welcome everyone. We'll be starting in a few minutes. We're just collecting the group here, so we'll just give it a few more minutes. But as you start to join in, if you wouldn't mind, in the chat window, if you can find the chat window in Zoom, please enter where you're attending from. Be great to know for the purposes of just understanding our cohort, where people are coming from. So if you wouldn't mind, just enter in where you're watching us from this morning, evening, or afternoon. Okay, looks like we've got a good group of folks, so I'm going to get started now. So welcome, my name is Carmen Taglienti. I'm going to be your program leader for the course, and I'll explain what that is in just a little while. But this course is called FinTech Innovation and Transformation in Financial Services. And this is an online course. And as such, I just want to give you some logistics related to Zoom as we go. If there are any audio issues, you can click on the arrow next to the microphone indicated here, but you can probably follow along with this on your own. If you do have questions as we go, there's a Q&A window. So if you wouldn't mind using the Q&A window for any questions you have, that would be great. Then we can go through at the end and answer your questions. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a chat window as well. So in the chat window, you can put in not questions, but just comments you want to make. But even if you put in some questions, I'll try to follow them, but usually the chat window gets a little chatty, so it's difficult to find the questions in there. But as you join in or as we go, and if you can I just tell me where you're coming from, what part of the world, that would be really nice. So with that, we get an idea of what the cohort looks like. So as I mentioned earlier, welcome to the class and we'll get going. So if we look at today's session in terms of agenda, I'll give you an introduction to the speakers. I'm already talking, of course, but I'll give you a more formal background of myself, and we'll introduce the faculty. We'll talk about the NUS Business School. We'll talk a little bit about Emeritus, who's coordinating the program. We'll give you a program overview. We'll go through the program highlights, what the learning journey would look like, the certificate and program details, and then at the end, the Q&A. So what we will do is hold the Q&A until the end. So as you enter in your questions, we'll then go through the Q&A toward the end of this particular session, and then hopefully answer all the questions that you might have. So as your questions come up, please enter them in the Q&A window and we'll go from there. And so welcome, folks. I can see you're already entering into the chat window where you're from, so thank you so much for doing that. So first of all, our faculty is Dr. Ernie Teo. Dr. Ernie's been teaching workshops and classes in FinTech, blockchain, and financial inclusion since 2016. And Ernie does all of these sessions in the course. So you'll be taking asynchronous sessions. You'll be watching Dr. Ernie talk about the different characteristics of FinTech and FinTech program. He's also been involved in blockchain projects in a variety of industries and advises on business processes and systems design. So a lot of the information that you'll be getting as you go through the program will be related to his background and experience in addition to the research that he's done. In his research area, it centers on financial innovation, including cryptocurrency, blockchain, distributed ledgers. So a lot of the modern technologies that we all are exposed to in the FinTech industry. He's participated in over 24 speaking engagements and collaborates with leading industry experts and presents his research on blockchain and FinTech at conferences worldwide. And he'll be going through some of the program definition as we get a little bit further on. So he'll be speaking in just a little while. Then on to myself. So I will be your program leader for the course. I've had over 25 years in, actually probably closer to 30 now, of years experience in data management, FinTech, analytics. I've done a lot of work in data visualization, blockchain actually, as well as AI and machine learning. So a lot of the different categories of technology that we'll be learning in this course is within my experience. And so I will help you through the course as we go. I will be presenting to you on particular topics as we do our webinars, and I will answer any questions that you have as part of my role for this particular course. I worked at several large banks, one of them State Street Bank, Fidelity Insurance, Fidelity Investments, and several insurance companies as well as part of my background. So I do have a lot of experience in the FinTech arena, and actually worked at Microsoft and some large technology companies as well, where I do have some experience with TechFin, which is basically the technology-led financial services arena. So certainly as we go through the course, and the course is very intriguing as we talk through the certain areas, relating it specifically to the best practices in the area. So I think you'll enjoy those components of the class. So next I'm going to pass it off to Fallon just quickly for a few minutes to talk a little bit about the NUS Business School. She's part of the executive education program.
All right, thanks, Carmen. So hi, everyone. I'm Fallon, and I basically work with Ernie and Emeritus team on this online program. So just to share very briefly about NUS Business School, it's founded in 1965, and NUS Business School stands today amongst one of the world's leading business schools. So in terms of our vision, it's to be the leading business school in Asia, globally recognized for excellence in education and research. Our mission is to advance knowledge and develop leaders so as to serve business and society. So an interesting fact is that actually our faculty made up of 139 strong from over 20 countries. So not just limited to Asia Pacific, we also have people from North and South America, Europe, as well as Australia. So in terms of ranking, QS World University ranking, we're ranked first in Asia as well as 11th globally. All right, thank you. I'll pass the time back to Carmen.
Thank you, Fallon, for that. Okay, so then I also want to introduce Emeritus. So Emeritus Educational Organization is partners with the best universities in the world to create online courses. So the course that you'll be taking here has been coordinated and created by Emeritus. And I've taught in several of the programs here at Emeritus. And so these are very top-notch programs that really get the best faculty speakers like Dr. Ernie to participate, and then to ensure that there is a level of hands-on that comes with the course, which is really my role here, to be able to ensure that you do have somebody that will help you guide you through the curriculum as you go through the course. And so it's a really nice blend of partnering with universities as well as giving you the ability to move through the program at a pace that's comfortable for you, and then having any questions answered. And I'll get into that in a little bit of detail. So clearly, for this particular course, Emeritus has partnered with the NUS Business School and to create the program, which we'll get into in a little bit more detail. And my personal perspective on it, having been in the industry for several years, is that this really does cover all of the latest innovations in this particular area. And I think you'll learn a lot as we go through the course and the curriculum work. Emeritus also has served over 50,000 students from across the world, and so there's presence in a lot of the major continents within the US. If you go to the Emeritus website, you'll see, I think that there's a lot of different programs that you can take that are related to major institutions of higher learning and executive programs that will help you to learn more about particular areas as you see interest. Okay, so let's move on to the program overview. So now I'll pass it off to Dr. Ernie, and then he can go take us through the program overview. And Dr. Ernie, just let me know when you want me to change the slides.
Okay, thanks, Carmen. Right, next slide. Okay, so the program is really focused on fintech, and the idea is to give you like a broad perspective on the different technologies that are happening in the finance world or that are being used in different ways in terms of offering of financial services, right? And let's first start with how we define fintech and what is actually the tech in fintech, right? So if we look at the evolution of financial services over the past 2 decades, we do see adoption of technology by the banks. We see, technology going online, banks offering their services through web portals, and we see that evolving throughout the years, right? And we like to emphasize that actually just the use of technology alone is not exactly fintech. Fintech involves some amount of disruption and innovation, right? So it involves the adoption of new technologies like AI, like data analytics, like blockchain, and innovating on these technologies to provide new types of financial services and to provide new ways of doing finance. Right, as we've seen over the years, the past few years, we've seen a lot of that information, kind of innovation happening in the fintech front. We see a lot of new methods of doing payments. For example, we see a lot of new types of financial offerings, such as lending platforms that we haven't seen before this decade, right? So those are all made possible because of the advance of technology. So technology is quite an important driver to drive this sort of innovation in the financial space, right? Without having fast enough computers or good enough data analytic techniques, we won't see the type of offerings that's being offered by the banks right now in the digital space, right? So really, technology and fintech work together in a very kind of synergistic way to kind of create this whole new space. And the term fintech really came out only in the past couple of years, right? And it is a very specific term to point to this sort of entities and companies. And so fintechs are not restricted to just banks. We see a lot of big digital or tech giants coming into the finance space as well. We see companies like Google, Apple offering payment services. And another very important region is China, where we see Ant Financial Services, or Alibaba, the company, right, offering all sorts of different financial services on their platform as well. So all that will be covered in the course, right? And we will look at these different sectors. Next slide. Yeah, so the different types of technology that we'll explore includes this 9 different types of technology that you see here, right? So if you notice, a lot of these are fairly new to fairly new to society, right? Cloud, the adoption of cloud is very, very recent, right? More than, like, if you think about 10 years ago, a lot of companies still host their websites on their own servers within their own companies. Now everything has gone to cloud. A lot of applications start to shift to cloud as well. We are getting rid of legacy infrastructure that allows companies to be more agile in terms of providing digital services, right? If I want to create an app, I don't need to go and get a new server, and I don't need to provision for a machine in order to run an app or to run a website. Right now, I can call on cloud services. That gives me a lot more agility, allows me to scale my application very quickly. Right, if I move from 100 users to 1 million users, I can scale quite easily, much more easily with cloud. I can add more servers, I can add more computing power, and that will give me a whole lot more agility. And that's what a lot of fintech services are tapping on to now, right? They can comfortably, as a fintech startup, can comfortably launch an app at a smaller scale, and when they get more users, they can expand very quickly with cloud adoption. Blockchain is another key technology that we'll be focusing on in the course. We'll be spending a fair bit of time on the blockchain side of things, also because of my background. So we will be not looking at 2 areas of blockchain. One side, we'll be looking at cryptocurrencies and the growth of the whole cryptocurrency space, right? So if you guys are following cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, you'll notice that it's experiencing a very bullish run right now. The prices of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are growing within the past month. So I will be diving deeper into the technology itself, giving you insight into how this technology works and how it's different from other types of centralized technology offerings out there. Right, platforms is also another important kind of notion, because a lot of services are now offered via platforms, online platforms, right, where a user can actually sign in and get access to various different services, right? Your Alipay, for example, is a platform where you can go on to make loans or to purchase wealth management products and so on, right? Open APIs is another very recent kind of progression as well. Open banking APIs, various governments and various central banks has been pushing the financial institutions to offer open APIs, such that newer companies, newer fintech companies can actually tap onto these APIs to offer different financial services, right? Some term this as banking as a service. So for example, a bank can open APIs to allow you to tap onto their payments engine or to tap onto their loans engine, and you can create a mobile app that actually interacts with the bank, right, through the API services, right? Automation, analytics are all kind of key to actually the advancement of banking as well. If we notice how banking has changed, you notice that there's a lot more chatbots that you can interact with. There's a lot more intelligent kind of robotic agents that you can interact with online. You know, a bank website is now able to chat with you, or you can even call into their hotline and a robot is talking with you, right? So automation plays a very big role in that. Data analytics again plays a very big role in how financial services can now be offered, because we have more financial data and we have more access to alternative data sets as well, including social media data and your even location data from your phones, etc. So this allows the financial institution to tap onto that data to kind of custom their services for you, right? They can learn more about you in order to provide more tailored services, and that can be very interesting in the way that we shift and how we view financial services. So financial services used to be one size fit all before the advent of these technologies. So over time, as we are able to tap onto these data sets, right, we'll be able to offer more personalized banking services catered to individuals. So and data analytics play a very big role in that. Right, IoT, another kind of key technology that will affect almost every industry, right? Because there's going to be sensors. There are sensors now in a lot of devices, and again, that contributes to the collection of data, right? Security also becomes a very important part of this whole ecosystem, right? Because once bank adopts more technology, security becomes more important, because personal data is involved, and we need to consider personal data protection acts in various countries. We need to consider, and because it's financial services, we need to ensure the additional security for these applications to ensure that your money is kept safe. Right. Another interesting type of technology that can be used in fintech is AR and VR, and that's really being explored right now as well, in terms of providing a unique user experience in terms of when it comes to your accessing your financial services. So we'll be covering all these different types of technologies and how they apply to financial technologies, financial services, and how that is changing the face of banking throughout the course as well. Right. Next slide. Right. So this in turn drives fintech, right? So and technology itself is not just the only driver. Of course, improving technology is going to give financial institutions much more confidence in adopting technology into their ecosystems, because we have to understand that financial institutions are probably the most risk-averse types of entities out there, right? They are kind of worried about adopting too new technology because it's untested. But because the technology has advanced so much and has grown much more mature over the last couple of years, there's more confidence in using methods like machine learning, for example, and that gives the banks more confidence to adopt it in fintech. So improving technology is very important. The drive for digitization by various governments out there in Singapore, the drive for digitization is very strong. So we will take quite a Singapore or ASEAN angle in this course as well, and we will talk about how the various countries are reacting in terms of the changing phase of financial services. Right. So the drive of digitization is very important, because if we start digitizing government services, your identities, for example, are digitized, then it's much easier to integrate with financial services as well. Right. But a human factor that's very important is the changing consumer demographics and preferences. So the way that people deal with technology or understand technology is changing, right? Millennials are becoming kind of closer to their 30s, right? So, and they are more kind of affluent. They have bigger spending power, but millennials react very differently from baby boomers as well. So the changing demographics, the newer generations, you know, the Gen Zs and Ys and so on, they have very different types of preferences. And the way that they deal with their money, save or invest, is very different from the previous generations as well. And the way that they their expectations of technology is also very different. So financial services have to catch up with this demographic. Right. Tech fins is another very important driver. The Alibabas, the Googles, the Facebooks of the world, they are pushing the adoption of tech fin, right? Of fintech, right? So in Singapore, we have companies like Grab that's pushing the adoption of financial technology as well through their platforms, and their platforms can be social media platforms, it can be payment platforms, e-commerce platforms, or even ride-sharing platforms, right? So they are using these platforms where they have large user bases to drive the adoption of financial technology, such as payment methods, such as personalized loans, right? And even wealth management products like investment products. So that again is a very important driver. And of course, government regulation is constantly evolving. We see very favorable government regulations here in Singapore as well in terms of supporting the advance of financial technology, right? And we'll spend a module in looking at that in particular. We will look at the Singapore ecosystem and how the central bank is actually supporting technology in finance. And that we will explore some of the different regulations that they have put in place to specifically support that as well. Right, next slide. Right, so the last part of my that I will go through is the modules overview. Right, as you go through the course, we will start with introduction into what is fintech. Some of it which I mentioned earlier. Right, there's various different sectors, what are the emerging sectors, and we will go through some statistics as well on fintech adoption globally as well as in this region in ASEAN. Right, and then in module 2, we will introduce a particular framework of design thinking, which is first principles motivated design thinking, to look at addressing problems or pain points in financial services and how to think about addressing these problem statements and to apply first principles to these first problem statements in order to develop interesting and innovative solutions to a particular type of pain point. Right, so this framework aims to take you back to the fundamentals. So like for example, if we have a pain point that, you know, I want to be able to pay seamlessly in the shops, right? If you take a very traditional approach, you may look at what are the existing devices or what are the existing kind of solutions you have, and you look at how to adopt them. And if there is something that the existing solutions cannot cater to, you kind of build on the existing services to provide to solve your problem. But when we adopt first principles, we come back to the fundamentals. We try to think fundamentally about what is the actual problem that the user is facing. So if I want to do payments seamlessly, what is the actual problem I'm facing? Right, what are the different stakeholders involved? The merchants, the payee, and the banks, right? So and we think about trying to solution in a way that makes everything more efficient and create better, and it's a framework to help you create better solutions as well, and to think about adopting existing technology into that framework. Right, and in module 3 and 4, we'll dive deeper into blockchain. So in module 3, we cover the cryptocurrencies. We give you an introduction on what is Bitcoin and what is blockchain to introduce to you the key concepts. We will talk about how cryptography is being used in blockchain, and we will look at how a blockchain network basically functions. And with that, we will have a overview and introduction on how cryptocurrencies work as well. And then in module 4, we will look at the enterprise side of things. So there's been a lot of announcements by various countries in the recent months where the countries are talking about adopting a central bank digital currency, or CBDC for short. Right, so in this space, various central banks are considering the use of blockchain technology into issuing a digital currency. Right, and so we'll explore that, and we'll explore why is that necessary, and we'll explore a little bit on what are the different kind of solutions that are being looked at right now by the various governments. A public, kind of a private sector version of this are stable coins, which are digital currencies that are pegged to a fiat currency like the US dollar. So we will also look at stable coins and their use cases. And in module 4, we will also cover enterprise blockchains. So other than the cryptocurrencies and digital asset applications, there's another set of applications in blockchain which addresses enterprise pain points. So this includes pain points such as inability to share information within an ecosystem, right? So there are various industry and consortium efforts into creating consortium type blockchains to address such pain points, for example, for trade finance. So there are bank consortiums out there that has worked together now to share information about trade finance documents such as letters of guarantees, letters of credits, and that is shared within a enterprise style blockchain network. So we'll look a bit at those use cases as well in module 4. Next slide. In module 5, we will look specifically at the applications of machine learning and AI, artificial intelligence, and the strategies that are being used by financial institutions to apply such technologies into their platforms, right? So we'll look at how banks innovatively are using things like chatbots, things like form filling, things like data analytics, and to provide wealth management advice, for example. And we will cover some use cases here of different banks using such technologies. Right, and in module 6, we will cover a particular kind of rising area in fintech, which is lending and payments. In the lending space, the peer-to-peer lending space, or the alternative lending space, has grown tremendously over the past couple of years. It started with fintech startups that originate from the US and from Europe, but then it really took off in China. But China actually faced a lot of problems with peer kind of startups. So kind of ecosystem, a lot of people lost their money as a result. So we will look at those use cases. We will examine what are the risks